The main news this week, finally, is the use of ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles to strike Russian territories, with Ukraine receiving the green light for these from the US and the UK. The Bryansk and Kursk regions were hit in these strikes. I'm Maria Drutska, and let's get this out of the way. Please like this video now because you are going to enjoy it anyway, so why wait? Plus, it will help Ukrainian content reach more people, and we all know that the world needs to see and hear the truth about the war. Well, in what seemed to be Russia's retaliation for this strike, they hit the Yuzhmash factory in Dnipro with their largest medium-range hypersonic missile, the Oreshnik. According to the Pentagon, the Oreshnik missile is based on Russia's intercontinental ballistic missile RS-26 Rubezh. Interesting fact that the US was informed about the launch 30 minutes in advance. Why? Well, because when two countries hold 90% of the planet's nuclear arsenal, there is apparently a responsibility to ensure humanity doesn't wipe itself out. These channels of communications remain open. Russia can also notify its nuclear bodies about such launches, since firing a ballistic missile without warning could trigger, you can guess, a retaliatory strike. So what's the deal with the RS-26 Rubezh? It's an intercontinental ballistic missile with medium-range capabilities that can deliver nuclear warheads. Development started in mid-2000s based on a Soviet missile called Pioneer. The design work was done by the Moscow Institute of Thermal Technology, the same people behind missiles like the Topol. The RS-26 is produced by the same Votkinsk plant that makes Iskander ballistic missiles. Defense Express suggests that Oreshnik is actually just a rebrand RS-26 Rubezh. They note it's possible that Oreshnik was simply a working code name during the development of what we know the RS-26 Rubezh. This kind of dual naming is pretty typical for Russia's military-industrial complex. For example, the Ha-101 cruise missile is also referred as a product 504, even that is labeled more widely used. According to Gennady Khazan, president of Ukraine's Aviation Association, work on the RS-26 started in 2006, but the project was abandoned in favor of the Iskander. The RS-26 was developed based on the two-stage Topol-M missile. It weighs around 40-50 tons and features a warhead with multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, originally designed for nuclear warhead of 0.3 megatons each. However, it's likely been used with a conventional warhead weighing about 1,200 kilograms. The missile had its first test launch in 2011. It was supposed to enter service with the Russian army in 2018, but the date was later pushed to 2027. This suggests the missile is still under development. However, as Defense Express points out, Russia could potentially ramp up serial production quickly, which is exactly what Putin hinted at his address following the strike on Dnipro. How to intercept them? Experts explain that the RS-26 Rubezh can reach Kyiv in about 8-10 minutes. The missile's maneuverability makes it hard to intercept with air defense systems, and its mobile launch platforms are hard to detect before the launch. During an attack, the missile splits into multiple warheads, meaning each one must be intercepted individually unless it's neutralized before the separation stage. Well, Ukraine's current air defense systems cannot hit RS-26 in its initial flight phase at the upper atmospheric layers. For that, systems like THAAD are needed, which Ukraine currently does not have. However, the warheads of the RS-26 can be intercepted by Patriot missile systems. Before I continue, I want to thank all of you who sent coffees on Buy Me a Coffee and become patrons to this channel. Please do so. If you want more videos on the channel, you can also help this channel by subscribing to it and like this video, as it will definitely help Ukrainian content to be seen by more people. I suggest you also subscribe to my Twitter page and Blue Sky, where I post regular updates about the situation in Ukraine, and to my Instagram, where I show the daily life in Ukraine. Analysts at Defense Express add that equipping the Rubezh missile with a non-nuclear high-explosive warhead is, first of all, challenging, and second, ridiculously expensive. Using this missile for conventional strikes just doesn't make sense when Iskander missiles can do the job just as well. So, the strike on Dnipro with the Rubezh missile was likely a demonstration that Russia is still willing to threaten Ukraine with nuclear weapons. Now that we are on this topic, let me tell you about something I was saving for later. And here it goes. THAAD. Thermal High Altitude Area Defense. This is an American missile defense system developed by Lockheed Martin to intercept medium and short-range ballistic missiles during their final flight phase. The THAAD interceptors don't use explosive warheads to destroy their targets. Instead, they rely on kinetic energy. Basically, the THAAD missile slams into the enemy missile at high speed, obliterating it. Well, this method eliminates the risk of environmental damage from explosive materials, which is a nice bonus. THAAD has a range of up to 200 kilometers and can intercept targets at altitude up to 150 kilometers. In short, it's great for taking out missiles as they approach their target. I won't bore you with more specifications, this is already starting to feel like a lecture, but let me just say THAAD can intercept intercontinental ballistic missiles as well as medium and short-range missiles. It's one of the most advanced systems of its kind, and its ability to neutralize threats in the upper atmosphere makes it invaluable for countries looking to protect their territorial sovereignty. THAAD isn't just used by US. Partner countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, South Korea, and Japan have also deployed it. Recently, the US stationed a THAAD system in Israel as well. The cost? A cool $3 billion. Well, Ukraine's THAAD is definitely something that we need. As a Ukrainian MFA spokesperson said a few days ago, Ukraine will work with its partners to acquire THAAD system capable of intercepting ICBMs to protect our population and infrastructure. But according to the Ukrainian publication Focus, Ukraine is unlikely to receive THAAD from the US anytime soon, they say. They argue that the chances are slim. Why? Well, the price tag, $3 billion. And they put it as, what if the Russians damage or destroy it like they have done with the Patriot system? $3 billion. Is it pocket change? It's 3 times the cost of a Patriot system. Plus, each THAAD interceptor missile shot costs $20 million. There is also the matter of training Ukrainian personnel, which would take months. The US might land these systems temporarily, but the risk of them being destroyed makes this less likely. Still, we will keep working to convince our partners, because innocent civilians, including children, are dying. It's beyond absurd that we have to prove our right to exist as a state and a nation with our lives. Anyway, back to the point. So, Russia launched an intercontinental medium range missile Oreshnik at Dnipro. Afterward, Putin addressed the Russian people, though it was clear the real audience was Western leaders. He declared that the nature of the war is shifting from regional to global and repeated his usual spiel about NATO's direct involvement in the war. Putin warned that the reckless escalation by the West would result in retaliatory strikes on the territories of countries orchestrating missiles attack on Russia, namely the US and the UK. He claimed, with the straightest face possible, that Russia has no intention of harming innocent civilians in these countries and will notify them in advance of any impending missile strikes. How kind. According to The Economist, the Kremlin strike on Dnipro with the Oreshnik was an attempt to scare the West out of helping Ukraine. Simply put, Putin wants Ukraine and his Western allies to believe he is ready to escalate either vertically within Ukraine or horizontally by attacking NATO countries directly, wrote one Russian expert. Russian analysts openly admit that without horizontal escalations, translation, mercilessly bombing the Ukrainian people, they can't force the US and its allies to stop Ukraine's long-range strikes deep into Russian territory. They also claim the vertical escalation ceiling is far from being reached. At the very least, they are talking about the need to completely destroy Ukraine's energy system, key transport hubs, and major bridges and tunnels. For example, the bridge in Zatoka, Odessa region, and the railway tunnel in the Carpathians used by Lviv railways. They argue these are high valuable targets that could be struck using Oreshnik very soon. Let's talk about Russia's plan to carve up Ukraine. The aggressor state, Russia, has cooked up a document forecasting the global military political situation up to 2045. And they are also planning to pitch this brilliant plan to the new US administration via various governments and foreign representatives. According to this masterpiece, Ukraine's political sovereignty is to be eliminated and the country divided into three parts. Wonderful, right? On the map, the plan goes like this. Red zone, new Russian regions. This involves officially annexing Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson regions, and Crimea. Nothing shocking here, right? Gray zone in the middle, a pro-Russian state entity. They imagine forming a puppet state with pro-Kremlin governance across Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, Poltava, Kirovograd, Dnipro, Odessa, Cherkasy, Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr regions, and of course Kiev itself. And yellow zone, Western Ukraine, dubbed disputed territories. This includes Volyn, Rivne, Khmelnytsky, Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernobyl, Chernivtsi, and Zakarpattia. The Kremlin thinks that the fate of these areas should be negotiated between Russia and neighboring states like Hungary, Poland, and Romania. According to Vadim Skibitsky, deputy chief of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Guru, this masterpiece was drawn up by the Russian Ministry of Defense and General Staff in December last year. The document forms the basis of Russia's long-term military planning for the next decade and beyond, targeting 2026-2035 with perspectives stretching to 2045. It outlines global and regional threats Russia envisions for itself and its future security environment. Skibitsky also noted that the head of Ukraine's intelligence service, Kirill Budanov, had already flagged elements of this plan, such as Russia's aim to end the war by 2026. He added that a prolonged war would impact every aspect of Russian life, economy, demographics, and, well, reputation included, but it's already somewhere. Anyway, he stated that Russia's strategic goal remained the full occupation of our country. Putin doesn't just want a slice of a pie, he wants the whole bakery. A complete takeover of Ukraine would give him economic, demographic, territorial, and military leverage. And that whole division into three parts, it's not some distant fantasy for 2045, it's like for the nearest 2026. At the calling occupation territories, Russian in line with their constitution. On their map, the annexed regions are marked as they have already been absorbed into Russia. Well, I think Putin can choke on this map and his plan. The idea of splitting Ukraine into pieces is really, guys, laughable. Putin does not want to divide Ukraine. He wants to erase it entirely and take full control. Sure, he might dangle the promise of some territory to Orban, who's still fantasizing about Ukraine's Carpathian region, is historically Hungarian, but Orban can choke too. This whole partition nonsense would be a blatant loss, not just for Ukraine, but also for Trump, by the way. It's slapped into his face, and we all know that Trump doesn't like losing. I'm confident that he won't back this plan. By the way, guys, let's shift gears. Very interesting piece of news. Over 3 US Air Force bases in the UK, mysterious drones were spotted between November 20 and 22nd, according to The Guardians. At this stage, the US Air Force isn't sure whether to classify these drones as hostile. They have also declined to comment on whether any defensive measures were deployed but maintain the right to defend their facilities. To protect operational security, we don't discuss specific force operation measures, but reserve the right to protect our assets, a USF spokesperson said. They added that they are working closely with local authorities and mission partners to ensure the safety of personnel, facilities, and property. Russian spy ships in European waters, guys. Meanwhile, Russian naval activities in Portuguese waters is picking up. Recently, a spy ship passed near the coastline. According to the Portuguese Navy's chief of staff, there has been an increase in Russian ship traffic with frigates, corvettes, tankers, research vessels, and the infamous Yantar spy ship moving through the area. The Yantar was chased out of the Irish Sea after patrolling areas with critical underwater pipelines and cables for energy and internet. Its presence raised concerns over the safety of cables connecting Ireland and the UK, which carry global internet traffic for companies like Google and Microsoft. British defense forces have also tracked other Russian vessels near their coastal waters. A week ago, the UK's Ministry of Defense intercepted a Russian reconnaissance aircraft near British airspace. Meanwhile, in waters west of Cork, another Russian ship was seen close to the undersea cable link in Ireland and France. Oh, and remember when two submarines' communication cables in the Baltic Sea were mysteriously damaged? One connects Germany with Finland and the other Sweden with Lithuania. Guess what they are calling it? Sabotage. European media suspects certain candidate behind it. No prize for guessing who. Guys, you haven't learned nothing from history. Actions needed, decisive decisions. Hello. Well, that's it for today. I want to thank all of you for supporting Ukraine, watching Ukrainian content. Please like this video, and if you really liked it and you want more videos, you can support the channel's development on Patreon or buy me a coffee. See you soon, and Slava Ukraine!